What's up, guys? It's your host Spartanic Arts DxD back with another high school DxD related video. And today we have What If Issei was neglected and became OP Part 3. If there's any possibility of hitting 1,000 likes, hit that like button right now. I know you're in the premiere. And if you guys want to know exactly when I upload, so that's my upload schedule, click the little blue button right next to the subscribe button and become a member today. It'll also be the first link down in the description below. A lot of people have been wondering what I'm doing. Well, now that I'm back in college and doing track and athletics start, I got some work to do. It's very hard to keep this schedule on deck, so bear with me, but I will be uploading hopefully 2 times a week, so just expect that. So thank you so much for the support when I've been off. It's been absolutely crazy. I still can't believe we hit 30,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. Bunch of what ifs coming soon, okay? Huge movie with full edited images, okay? That's just coming soon. Don't get too excited, okay? It's probably going to take like another month to release, so just calm down. But thank you so much for the support. And without further ado, let's go ahead and thank my balance breakers. Just kidding. Let's go ahead and do my second channel. So if you want to subscribe to Amp Palski and follow DxD down in the description below, but killing it on there, you go subscribe to them. And without further ado, let's go and thank my balance breakers. Rob the King, Lachlan Yates, Atomic Warlord 58, Seth Voiles, Ant Lewis, The Beast YT3, Colex, Joe Baldwin, Madara Uchiha, Refik 135, Zapper 363, Keep Saying 21, Blue Lightning, Louis Brunuz, Hellhound, VR with hashtag 2347, Sanitates, Night Ammo, Zini Key 2000, Z Key 2000, The J Boys, the PS_gamer. I did that on purpose this time. The PS gamer. Xor X108, Mr. Wolf, Legendary Saiyan 98, Jordan Patchout, Mazaku, Dr_MOG_ is the bomb, Asimodus, Grimfire Shot Gamer, That Round Guy, Zero Fusion, Source Spawner, God Said Why, and Chaotic Raven. Thank you so much for becoming a balance breaker. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into part 3. Continuing where we left off last time, while your primary mode of offense is close combat, you have absolutely no martial arts training whatsoever. You are more of a street brawler. That is unacceptable. I will aid you in mastering as many martial arts that will supplement your current style from Taekwondo, Aikido, Muay Thai, Karate, and Judo, and many more. We will sharpen your already impressive battle instincts into extremely lethal weapon. I will also show you how to properly wield a sword so you don't let that magnificent blade you have rust, stated Karate Senpai. Issei looked really excited at the prospect of learning martial arts. As of now, the only style he had was Russian head first and punch as hard as you can. Learning an actual style will be a huge boost to his repertoire. The next one to step forward was a creepy looking guy dressed in what looked like a biker clothes, flicking a Zippo lighter. Since you are mostly dragon, along with the phoenix tears you injected into your veins, means you have an exceedingly high affinity for fire magic. I will show you how to harness that fire and turn it into your weapon by helping you create your own unique spells, stated Pyro Senpai. This really made Issei giddy. He was already a little jealous of Volley and the others for throwing around magic when he never had the capacity to do so before. Now, though, he was going to abuse the shit out of it. Next stepped out a man who looked like the Shinto priest. I will aid you in learning the lost art of Finjutsu, as well as the Shinton branch of magic. As a fellow Japanese, I feel it is my obligation to pass on this knowledge to you. I don't expect you to become a master of this art, but with sufficient knowledge you can greatly supplement your usual fighting style and get it as great for setting traps and aiding your training. For example, by drawing gravity and resistance seals in your body, it to help build strength, stamina, speed, and endurance by simply walking and doing regular things. When you train, your muscles will shred, but with your fast regeneration, they will heal a lot quicker than any other person, allowing you to train more, making your muscles even more dense and powerful, and simultaneously raising all of your base stats. Finished Pre-Senpai. Issei could practically feel his jaw hit the floor. That sounded like a crazy useful skill to have. Then he remembered. When he fought Cyber at the Gremory Mansion before the Kyoto trip, Sir Zek said that his limbs were weighted, and he still almost destroyed Issei. This was definitely a skill he was interested in. Plus, learning Shinto magic will make him feel closer to home. He always did think that Oyamai were cool. He didn't need to learn 30 different kinds of magic like Volley or Rasvaisa. He didn't have the talent for that. He just needed a small arsenal that he will turn into a deadly weapon. The final senpai to step forward looked like a Buddhist monk. He had an air of serenity around him. From what I've seen, from you in this world. You are an extremely driven individual that possesses an unnatural amount of willpower along with an excessive life force, which is why I believe there is no skill better suited to you than the one that I will teach you. It will become the bread and butter of your offense. It is an obscure art that was passed down from teacher to student in old days, and even then users of this art were rare, so much so that it had died out centuries ago. However, I can feel the potential for it dwelling within you. The name of this power is Haki. Haki is a power that dwells within every human in the world. Presence, fighting, spirit control. It is no different from the other senses normal humans have. But average humans don't notice this power, or they may try to develop in their whole lives without success. Removing all doubt, that is strength. Haki is typically divided into two shades. The power to be sensitive to your opponent's presence, this is Kanyabushuko no Haki. Color it their whole lives without success, removing all doubt. If you can master this power, you'll be able to discern both the location and the number of enemies outside your field of vision. It even allows you to predict what enemy will do in the next moment, even going as far as reading surface thoughts and emotions if mastered correctly. Buso Shako no Haki, color of arms, this one is like putting on a coat of armor around the selected part of your body. Depending on your skill with it, stronger armor will obviously increase your attack power as well. Taking into account your fighting style, it is an art. I believe was meant to be wieldingly someone by like you, a conqueror. Keno Bushoko, Buso Shoko, these are two types of Haki. However, a select few people in the world can utilize another kind of Haki, the power to control your opponent. Heio Shaku no Haki, color of the conqueror. It is a crystallization of one's will, an ability to enforce that onto your enemies and environment. For example, with a controlled burst of Hakoshaku Haki, you can knock out a small army depending on it with your skill. It's useful when fighting cannon fodder. However, while the color of the conqueror can be controlled, it cannot be trained. It is the very spirit of the user. The only way to strengthen it is to strengthen one's own mental strength. I have a strong feeling this power dwells within you. As such, I will show you in ancient practices long lost to time to unlock the wield your Haki, explained Monk Senpai. By the end of the explanation, Issei felt his mind shut down and reboot. That sounded like a completely fucking badass power, and he was going to learn it. His face adorned a maniacal smile on his face that reeked of battle lust. Well, what are we waiting for? We've got 8 months to turn me into the biggest badass possible. Let's get started, he exclaimed, totally pumped to take it to the next level. The world better be prepared to be flipped on its ass. I hope you're ready, Sire Org. You're in a world of pain. If not, Issei Hyoudou is ready to take the stage, thought Issei as he dove headfirst into his training. Now, Chapter 3. Rias Gremory chewed on her nails in an attempt to alleviate the pressure she could feel trying to swallow her up. It was only down to herself and Azia going against the strongest youth devil. Sire Orgbiel, her beloved Issei, was nowhere to be seen. This day was not going well at all. She hoped it would be better. It started off on a bad note as her prize pawn and love interest Issei Hyoudou, who left 2 months ago to train in a scheduled location, didn't show up on the morning of the biggest day yet for her barrage. Those 2 months felt more like 20 years to her. She could hardly concentrate on improving herself, as she was desperate to see her precious Issei once more, and apologized to him for behaving so selfishly. It was all she could think of about these last 2 months, and she was sure the rest of her barrage were in the same situation. She knew that being unfocused before such a huge match was asking for trouble, but she couldn't help it. Her delicate maiden heart still yearned for his attention. Her team was already a bit on edge due to their missing pawn, so the trip there didn't calm their nerves at all. Arriving at the venue, they received the news that Issei would be a little late from Azazel, whom he reached via his familiar, the Skeneith Barth. It pained her to think that he contacted Azazel and not her to inform her. It hurt even more to know that he could have contacted her or her Parage at any point during these last 2 months. She wondered if he was still upset with her. She wondered if he hated her and wanted to do nothing with her anymore, along with the host of the other nonsensical scenarios, like him enveloping an Aphrodite, who seduced him in every way from her. What a slut. Hey, the heart of a maiden is a complicated thing, and she knew that she was being ridiculous, but Rias couldn't help herself. She convinced herself that Issei just needed some time away for himself to sort out whatever he needed to do, and she had hope that when he got back, things could go back to the way they were before, or maybe even better if her dreams come true. After arriving in the underworld, Gremory Parage plus Azazel and Irina made their way to the Argyris, a city located in the floating island in the city. In Argyris territory, the location of the match was agreed upon. The intervention of the current head of the Argyris clan following the disputes between the current Maos and Great King's factions. It was a tumultuous situation regarding the raiding game, which was supposed to be a platform for the youth devils to showcase their power. Instead, it became tainted with greed and politics of higher-ups, and now is acting as a representative between the Mao faction and the Great King faction. After getting their pregame talk out of the way and arriving at the stadium, the Gremory Parage found the special rules of the raiding game. Dice figure. The rules were simple. Each king rolled a single die, and they could be seen sent out combatants who value, in terms of pieces, equal the combined number of rolled by both kings. It was a good thing that these rules were in effect, as if they were a regular game. Issei would have been disqualified for being late. As it stands, he doesn't have to fight unless sent out by Rias, leaving him enough time to take it to the stadium. As the first match got underway, Rias sent out her knight Kiba Yuto to go against the knight of Sire Org's Parage, Burka Farkas. It was a tough match for Kiba, as he went up against a member of the Farkas clan whose speciality lay in controlling horses. In the end, Kiba used deception and his surprising second balance breaker, Glory dragged Trooper from the Blade Blacksmith half of his holy demonic sword to take down Burka, earning the Gremory Parage an early win. The second matchup was the Rooks, Ras Vaisa and Konako going up against the Rook, Gadim Bala, and the Knight Lieben Krossel. It was a tough match for the Rooks, as Baham's overwhelming strength and defense and Krokkel's trickery along with his sacred gear, Gravity Jail, proved quite the obstacle. However, Rosvai's extraordinary intellect and Konako's amazing fortitude earned them the win, the second in a row for the Gremory Parage. It didn't come at a cost though, as Konako was taken out at the end, devastating her teammates. The third match was a magic battle between Akano and Sire Org's Bishop, Corinna. It was a flashy battle with lots of elemental magic being thrown around, but in the end, Akano's magic prowess was too much for the Bishop of Sire Org as she was defeated, earning Rias 3 straight wins for her Parage. The fourth match, Zenovia. The fourth match pitted Zenovia and surprisingly Gasper, who volunteered, against the descendants from Instinct Pillar Houses, the Bishop, Minsta Sunbuck, and the Rook, Lubida Boom. It was a brutal match, and thanks to Serak's sacred gear, Trick vanished. Zenovia's Exterondal was sealed, leaving her defenseless, but almost everyone was surprised that Gasper, who stood up to the plate and took an immensely brutal beating while stalling for the time as he tried to unseal Zenovia's holy sword. He succeeded in the end, but was eliminated, but not after giving a truly marvelous and moving performance, allowing a highly emotional Zenovia to sweep through both opponents with her Exterondal, earning a 4th win for the Gremory Parage. The fifth match was Queen vs. Queen, with Akano going against Kushida Abada, an extra demon from the House of Abandon. Again, similar to her previous match, it was a magical battle. It seemed that Akano had taken the advantage in terms of pure power. However, Kushida was a lot more resourceful, especially with the use of her clan's signature move, Hole. In the end, Akano's lack of knowledge of skill was her downfall, as her own holy lightning was turned against her, with Kushida earning the first win for Sire Org's Parage. The sixth match saw the king himself, Sire Org, step forward to face the team of Kiba, Zenovia, and Ross Visa. They worked well to go against the monstrous strength and speed of Sauerorg, along with his overflowing Toki. They even managed to sever his arm, which forced him to use his Phoenix tier, but in the end, his overwhelming power proved too much for the trio as they succumbed to defeat in the end. The 7th match saw Sauerorg sent out his queen once again, as they were the only two left in the barrage. Rias had no other choice but to step out herself, as she couldn't risk Azia. The battle again, magic intensive as demonic powers flew all over the place. Kushida proved to be quite the combatant and pushed Rias to the edge, but in the end, the power of destruction was far too much for the queen to handle, and she was defeated. Luckily, Rias had Azia heal, and her after the beating she took. Which brings us to the current situation. Due to the fact that only Sauerorg was left in his barrage, he automatically took the field. Rias was in a pinch now, as the only option she had was to sound out Azia as a single combatant who couldn't fight 2 matches in a row. Rias was at the end of the rope. She still had her earpiece on, consulting with the rest of her barrage, who were under supervision in the medical room, but were still able to wax the wad. Issei isn't here yet. Rias, it looks like we have no choice but to send out Azia. As soon as the match starts, have her forfeit. If Issei is not here by then, you will have no choice but to take on Sauerorg yourself, stated Akano, logically, as she re-inclined onto the hospital bed, recovering from her injuries. All around her were the rest of her barrage, who were also awake with the earpieces on, watching the game. Rias just let out a sigh. You're right, of course. Do you think you can handle it, Azia? Questioned Rias to her adorable push-up, said the blonde nodded in her head resolutely. Huh, Onisama, I won't let you down, exclaimed Azia as she cutely pumped her fist, bringing a smile to her king's face. Good luck, Azia. We will be here waiting for you in the medical room, stated Kiba, along with the rest of the proj, giving his well wishes to the timid bush of friend. Are you ready to go, Azia? Questioned Rias. She only had a minute and a half to let her combatant after all. Azia nodded and prepared to step into the magic circle before a voice in their ears stopped, and the rest of her barrage in their tracks. There is no need for that. I'll take it from here, said a deep, husky voice that was brimming with confidence and charisma. He had the earpiece, which was only given out to members of their barrage. It took them a while to recognize, since they hadn't heard his voice in almost 2 months, not to mention his voice changed a little. But there was doubt in their mind. Their pawn had finally returned. Issei! Everyone exclaimed, the barrage all at once, and his overwhelming sense of relief washed over them. The most powerful member of their barrage was finally here, and just in time too. After 2 months without his soothing presence, they felt the floodgates open. They truly learned to appreciate their pawn on a whole other level compared to before, as his absence really sapped their motivation for most of them. He truly was, as Azazel once pointed out, the heart of their team. Azia, Akano, and Gasper could be seen shedding tears unshamedly, and even Konako's eyes were a little misty, though she tried to hide it. Kiba and Rosvisa were a little more reserved in their reaction, but were no less relieved, especially Rosvisa, who was suspiciously blushing and teary-eyed, not that anyone noticed. Issei, whispered Ria softly, as tears rolled down her face. It felt a huge weight had been lifted off her shoulders. Issei had this strange ability to put people at ease, raise their spirits, and give them courage with just his presence. She was sure her barrage felt the same. Now that he was here, they were filled with hope. This was one of the reasons she fell in love with him. He truly was blazing, piercing through the darkness of the world. You did well out there, Gasper. I'm proud of you, little buddy. You as well, Konako. You have all done your parts, now it's time I do mine. Sorry I'm late, but I'll take things from here. This is my fight. You guys just sit back and enjoy the show, stated Issei, quite self-assured that the rest of them didn't know he had. Gasper was beaming at the praise of his favorite senpai, and Konako blushed at his words. The others sat up a little straighter upon hearing his words. There was always a quiet confidence in them with regards to Issei and his ability to pull through in a fight, and they knew that the only person in their barrage who could even remotely face Sauerorg head-on was none other than Issei. Now, though, even though the conversation was being held via earpieces, they could practically feel the confidence oozing off of him. It was incredibly reassuring feeling, as his teammates at the same time, however, it intimidated them to the point that they felt the need to submit to him. It only lasted a few seconds before the feeling disappeared, making them feel as if they just imagined it. Rias wanted to say something, to apologize for her behavior the last time they spoke, to ask for forgiveness. but the words caught in her throat. She was far too engrossed in the sound of his voice, which she hadn't heard in 2 months. It sounded much manlier and mature as well. She knew that now was not the time, as he needed to focus on the fight, so she did the only thing she could. "Good luck, Issei," she whispered softly. "Thanks," replied Issei before he cut off the connection and moved toward the arena. Rias felt a little disheartened at the response. It was if Issei of a few months. He would have stumbled over himself and tried to reassure her that he could win and that he would do it for her. He would have then had a lewd look on his face as he imagined all the ways she could reward him, most of them involving her breast. She let out a sad smile to herself. It seemed her beloved Issei really has changed since he left. She only hoped he didn't resent her. Scene change. As he cut the connection from his earpiece, Issei let out a huge breath as he relaxed his body. He was currently standing in the tunnel of the Gremory end of the stadium. Waiting to be called out, he started doing a few breathing exercises that he learned during his time to ease the tension in his body. After 2 months of nonstop training, which was actually 8 due to the time dilation field, he felt in a peak condition. He had never felt so powerful and so assured of himself. He liked this feeling, he decided. As he heard the commentator start to announce the combatants in the match, he could feel the hairs on the back of his neck stand and his blood starting to pump. Damn, I was always on Volley's case for being a battle maniac, and here I am almost vibrating in excitement to fight. Shit, I feel so fucking violated right now. No, I'm not like that bastard. Need to find my happy place. Think happy thoughts. Think happy thoughts. Think of Opie. Soothe, soft, bouncing Opie, thought Issei as he started drooling at the end. In his mind, Drake just facepalmed his host with such a cool and intimidating aura a few minutes ago, and now he's drooling like an idiot over imaginary brass. He sometimes questions the sanity of Issei. "Will you stop messing around and focus on the fight?" growled Drake. Even though he got a little better over the last 2 months, he still felt some phantom pains every time he heard the word Opie. Issei snapped out of his pleasant daydream at Drake's insistence and refocused himself. Drake would never say it out loud, but the speed at which the air around his host changed in that moment was frightening. An air of oppression hung around Issei as all of his emotions melted off his face. Drake called this his game face. After almost 8 months of daily martial arts training, Issei learned discipline and how to exert control over himself and his emotions. He still is a highly emotional individual. However, now instead of blurting out his feelings and making a fool of himself, he's learned to internalize his emotions direct it at a target and let all hell break loose. As much as he tried to deny it, though, he loved the thrill of battle. Maybe it was the dragon in him, or maybe it was the natural predisposition. But when he was in the heat of battle, he truly felt at home. All restraints were off of him. On the field of battle, he wasn't a son, he wasn't someone's servant, and he wasn't a worthless pervert. He was a warrior, a gladiator. He was free to express himself however he desired. He could let loose all the pent-up emotions and all the feelings he repressed in the feel of adrenaline pumping through his veins. It was only during his training that he realized one of the most important things. It's not only in a fight that he could truly be himself, he is a dragon, a fact he can deny no longer. He lives for the thrill of battle. And as he heard his name being announced, a single thought ran through his mind. It's time this dragon took flight. Sarorg Bill, you are awesome. Someone I acknowledge as a worthy opponent. However, today you will be a stepping stone to my ascension. I honestly don't think you are ready for what's about to hit you. Scene change. In the Opie Dragon part section of the stands that were filled with many children of the underworld, most of them were commoners or children of reincarnated devils, meaning low-class devils of a slow social caste. They were all given the opportunity to attend the event today, though, along with their parents thanks to their hero, the Opie Dragon, who covered the cost of the tickets as well as their snacks and beverages, allowing them to be here today. The excitement was palpable as they all bore witness to their first live rating game. They were excitingly talking to their parents and friends about the matches they witnessed along with the cool abilities on show. They were all waiting in anticipation, though, for their idol, the legendary Red Dragon Emperor, to make his appearance. Sitting in the front of the section was the manager of the Sekiyuki, Ravel Phoenix. She took the initiative to be the representative / cheerleader of this section of the stadium. When Issei-sama contacted her and asked her to organize this initiative on his behalf and transferred an obscene amount of money into a special bank account that he gave her full access to, she was at first shocked before she felt an immense sense of pride swell up in her chest. She expected nothing less from the man she had chosen. His kindness and benevolence truly knew no bounds, and she was honored that he trusted her above all others to accomplish this task. She took it with gusto, arranging everything with alarming efficiency. She made sure that Issei-sama got recognition for his deed. Even though he asked her not to worry about it, she spent most of the match pumping the kids up and encouraging them to show their support for their new favorites. On the outside, she was cool, calm, and collected. On the inside, though she experienced the turbulence of emotions, she was extremely worried. It's down to the fact the main reason she was here has yet to show up. She could feel, as she was sure of the rest of the spectators could, that end was nigh. It was down to just Cyborg Biel, and on the end against Rias-sama, Asia-sama, and Issei-sama. The problem being that Issei-sama has yet to fight a match. He was not present when the team walked out of the field. She could hear many whispers, mainly from the snotty high-class devils, about how the mighty Red Dragon Emperor fled with his tail behind his legs at the prospect of fighting a high-class devil of the pure house of Biel. She silently gritted her teeth as she willed herself not to incinerate those pests. She was sure they were just putting on airs and hoping to earn some favor with Zircon Biel, the original Great King. Those people snickered to hear to the core. She wondered if this was what the future truly held for her race. It's one of the reasons she became so infuriated with Issei-sama in the first place. Infatuated with Issei-sama in the first place. He was so unconventional, so unorthodox, from the usual stuck-up devils. He didn't care about the traditions or customs. He just spoke his mind and did what he wanted. To her, he was a beacon of light representing hope for her and her future. That's why she promised herself that she would train her mind and her body, so when the time came, she would be a woman worthy to stand by his side. As she was contemplating these matters, she heard the voice of the commentator signal that the time up for the strategies and decision-making, a time for the game of the 8th match was now. She crossed her fingers in hopes that he got here in time. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from the short break. I hope you packed up some snacks because the 8th match is set to go underway, and it's gonna be a doozy. Governor Azazel, Emperor Biel, what was your impression on the game so far? Questioned the commentator Nad Gamedin from the House of Gamedin, of the former 72 Pillars. He was a professional commentator with years of experience while covering rating games. He was quite enthusiastic about his job. Well, it certainly has been exciting to see those kids down there performing far above the standards of such youngsters, and this is the feeling of a professional match. While the Gremory Parage shot out the blocks with grabbing the wins in the first 4 matches, but Cyborg and his queen turned it around spectacularly. The Gremory Parage still has 3 members left: Rias the King, Asia Argento the Bishop, and Issei Hyoudou the Pawn. Although Cyborg is by himself on the other end, you can't help but feel he has an advantage here. Such is the overwhelming strength he possesses, as he is the only one left on his team. He is automatically the next contestant in line. Since Rias fought the previous match, he is barred from fighting. Asia Argento, as you know, is the healer of the group, as such has no combat experience to take on Cyborg. The most logical choice in the matchup that we all came here to watch would be Issei Hyoudou. However, he hasn't made an appearance as of yet, even though there have been many opportunities. Was Rias saving him for the end? We'll find out soon enough, stated Azazel. He was having a lot of fun commentating on this match. He spoke the truth when he said he wanted to see Issei for Cyborg. He wanted to see the results of Issei's training. He was sure that whenever he was, well, he was at this moment hoping to see a good fight from his rival. I couldn't agree with you more, Governor. This match has exceeded expectations, especially considering it as an expedition match, with Young Devils yet to officially make their debut. The Young Devils certainly put on a good show, and have shown us that there is great hope for the future of Devils. I look forward to the end, as it will surely prove gripping, said Emperor of the Rating Games, Dalashur Belial. He truly enjoyed the performance by these youngsters. He had hoped one of them would rise to the top in future and give him a good match. Well, there you have it, folks. Straight from the mouths of the experts, but I'm sure you're tired of hearing us talk. Let's get the match started, shouted Nod into his mic as the crowd went nuts. We have the official submissions for this match. I can tell you straight away, it will be a one-on-one match, despite the value on offer being 12. From the BL corner, the only available participant, but certainly the most dangerous, the strongest youth devil. And the heir of the House of BL, Cyra BL, shouted Nod, as the cheers rang around the stadium for Cyra as he coolly walked out of the field and stopped at the middle. He looked in top condition despite having fought a match earlier. His arm looked to be back up to top condition as well, despite having it looped off earlier. The Phoenix Stare he used seemed to have fixed the damage, leaving him raring to go. He hoped his opponent didn't point him. As these thoughts were circling in his mind, the officials in the charge of the match were reinforcing the arena and putting a powerful shield to protect the spectators. And his opponent from the Gremory Parage. Oh boy, do we have a fight on our hands here, ladies and gentlemen. It's the fight we've all been waiting for. Here he comes, the Opite Dragon, the Pawn of Rias Gremory, and the Red Dragon Emperor, Issei Hyoudou. Roared the commentator as the roof came off of the arena from the cheers of the spectators. Mainly the reincarnated commoner devils, as one of their own and someone they looked to for inspiration, entered the arena. More than a few people were taken aback when he walked into the arena, including his fellow Parage members, Irina, Serzex, Grafia, who had just raised their eyebrow elegantly, Valena, Zektes, Michael, Gabriel, and the C-Tree Parage, the volley team who were watching, Azazel, Serapha, his self-proclaimed rival, and his manager, Ravel. Such was the drastic change in Issei, not just his appearance, wise, but also the aura around him. He looked a lot more muscular than the most remember him being, not to the point where he became bulky and unappealing, but achieving a perfect balance between strength and speed. He also looked taller as he stood at 6'2" and his eyes were startling shade of green. He was dressed in all black, with black leather pants that flared out of the bottom, with black biker boots. There were 3 straps wrapped around his right thigh, as well with the Marin belt with 3 straps as well as crossing each other diagonally with a snarling dragon head for a belt buckle. His top consisted of a body form of black leather combat vest and the cutoff at his arms and fitted to his body in a way that clearly showed the definition he worked hard to receive from his training, and his hands were covered in plain black leather gloves, while his right arm was the regular slightly tanned color of his skin. He was left covered all the way to his wrist in what looked like a variety of tattoos. He also let his hair grow out, reaching just below his shoulder, with his bangs falling just above his eyes, and a small portion of falling between the bridge of his nose with a single braid on the right side, reaching his chest and another toward the back of his left side, stopping just above his collarbone. Think 20 years Lambio from Kimono Hitman Reborn. I don't know if you guys know what that is. Both had, I love that anime by the way, both had 3 green beads each at the end. His ears were also pierced on both sides with 3D diamond shaped of glowing emerald with vertical covered in metal, similar to Erza wears. Instead of being all metal, the inside ones is emerald, as well as a dragon fang necklace wrapped snugly around his neck. Adding to that was the sharp and elegant features of his face with narrowed eyes, gave him a bad boy vibe that drove their fairy sex crazy. Suffice to say that many women in the arena had a hard time controlling their blush at the sight of such a fine specimen, regardless if they were in relationships or not. Such was the case for the Gremory men, who were shedding many tears at the fact that their normally cool and collected wives were actually blushing at the sight of Issei. Rias couldn't believe what she was seeing from her pawn. Had 2 months really made such a change in him? The way he walked and the confidence that was pouring out of him made it seem like he was ready to take on the world. She blushed at the thought of how strong his body looked, and now she wondered how good it would feel to embrace him now. Sona Citri, the student council president of Ko Academy, and the best friend of Rias, was stumped. She had always perceived herself as a creature of logic and intellect. However, even her logical mind, the young man she was witnessing right now, seemed to take logic, bend it over a table, and fuck it in the ass. She could still remember him peeing on the kendo club and peeping on the kendo club, getting the tar beaten out of him on a daily basis, and now he exudes the aura that screams alpha male. She still remembers the pity she felt for Rias when she reincarnated him, as she had felt he would never amount to anything. He was worthless without his sacred gear, of course. Over the months, he proved her wrong. On multiple occasions, she had no problem admitting she was wrong. But looking at him now, she can't help but feel the regret at having passed him over, allowing Rias to take him, over her perceived notions instead of looking at him more deeply. Ravel, for her past, was blushing up such a storm that one could almost see the steam leaving her face. She'd always remembered and had delusions and fantasies about Issei that beautified him to unwavering extent. It was her guilty pleasure, but to see him like this, looking so cool, so assured, and so ruggedly handsome, made her heart, and other parts of her body that shall not be mentioned, throb excitedly. She could feel his order of dominance from all the way in the stands, calling for her to submit to her future king and master, and boy did she want to. Before she got carried away, though, she got a hold of herself. She needed to be patient. This was not the time to indulge in selfish desires. Issei-sama needed her support. She planned on giving him all she could handle as she stood up and encouraged the children and fans of the Oppai Dragon section to cheer and applaud their hero. She almost fainted when she looked back at the arena and saw Issei-sama looking at her as he gave her a sly wink before continuing in. It was turning out to be a great day for her, and she couldn't wait to officially be his. Ladies and gentlemen, this contest is about to get underway. The stadium has been reinforced with powerful shields and have been eradicated around the spectator arenas in preparation. Instead of the regular space and the dimensional gap, due to the popularity of those two, as well as the anticipation of this fight, the match will take place right here, announced Nod. The cheers were deafening as the air of the anticipation around the stadium rose to fever pitch. Issei was still making his way at the center of the arena, while Cyborg stood there with an abbreviator of his rating game. Ruju, Rose, and Cooks, a lot of the older generation as well as some of the new, noticed the way Issei moved, with deadly elegance, like a sharpened katana, sharp, lethal, and silent as it moves through the air. Many were impressed, not to mention a little intimidated. Most of more zealous high-class devils turned their nose up at the sight of another unlightened barbarian. They were sweating a bit, though, and tried not to quiver in fear of the sensation of his presence. Unknown to anyone but Issei, he was releasing a sort of controlled burst of Hiroshuki Haki, not enough to knock someone out, but just enough to exert his dominance. Cyborg, though, was grinning in anticipation. He could see his opponent had changed a lot since their friendly spar a few months back. He looked a lot more dangerous. This fight was looking to be one he could truly enjoy. He may even have to resort to using his secret weapon. He was excited at the prospect of this happening. As Issei finally reached the center, he stood opposite from Cyborg and stared at him unflinchingly. He could vaguely hear the arbitrator recite the rules of the match, but he was more focused on his opponent, and it seemed his opponent was the same. Cyborg stared at him in the eyes with a challenging grin on his face as he opposed to the emotionless look Issei wore on his. Zoom Zoom Ivan, go Oppai Dragon, were the cheers of the children from the Oppai Dragon fan arena, with Ravel leading them. Issei completely ignored Cyborg and Rujider, who was explaining the presumptions of the match. He turned to the stand with the fans. For the first time today, they saw him show emotion, as he gave a warm and kind smile to the children and waved at them in acknowledgement and thanks for their support. Many women swooned in sight, including his fellow Parage members. Though she will deny this for as long as she lives, Sona Citri, her pawn Sajigasru, saw this and felt someone kicked his puppy at seeing the woman he was majorly crushing on blush at the actions of a well-known pervert. He settled for glaring daggers at his friend/rival/fellow pervert. As he finished his greetings, he moved back to his original spot to find an irritated Rugider Rosikins, who just finished his explanation, and an amused Cyroorg. After getting the agreement for a clean fight, the arbitrator left via Magic Circle to his spectator arena and officially started 8th match of this rating game. At once, the previous kind and warm expression toward his fans, blood on his face leaving Issei in a passive look as he stared directly at Cyroorg, who just shivered in anticipation. No words were being said as both combatants just measured the other with their gaze. The tension in the arena was sufficing as the people were chewing on their nails in anticipation and nervousness, waiting for something to happen. Some, though, were confused as why Issei hadn't activated his balance breaker yet, alone bring out his sacred gear. Was he underestimating Cyroorg? And that is where we're going to stop for now. Once again, I apologize for not uploading, and a lot of people have been asking me recently if you made it to the end of the premiere, what if Issei had Ultra Instinct? I have not been able to finish the story due to the fact that ever since I got to school, I've had so much to do, and it's actually been quite overwhelming. But I'm learning to balance it once again. I just needed to get used and learn my schedule before uploading and speaking before. So, for example, when I'm in my classes, my classes don't start until around 10 or 11, but in the morning, I have to spam eat before track and drink like 80,000 pounds of water before I actually go to practice. And, well, you already know. So, I'm not even going to try to explain it. Either way, it's really hard to upload right now, so just bear with me. 2 uploads a week is the goal. Don't quote me on it, though, so hope 3 if I'm feeling real good. But thank you so much for the support, man. A fully edited version of this Issei the God Killer is Born, or what if Issei was trapped in the dimensional gap. The fully edited movie is coming soon enough, and it really excites me that it'll be an hour long of just fully edited images, and everyone will be super hype with the transformations and things like that. But it's going to take a while, and the dedication it's going to take is insane, but bear with me. I got about 2 more episodes to put out of that, and when I do that, you guys will have so much fun with it. I'll just be so happy to see. And it'll be premiered. It's going to be absolutely crazy. Thank you so much for the support, guys. And without further ado, remember to subscribe to my second channel at Papowski and follow DXD down in the description below. Try to hit the like button if you're still in the premiere right now. And without further ado, Spartanic Arts DXD out.